Thank you for tuning into episode 266 of This Week in Real Estate, the TWAR podcast broadcast live Wednesday, March 6th, 2024. A healthy housing market or a sick house? Wait, hang on. I got to redo it was a very clever title that I just botched. Healthy housing or sick markets? We take a look behind the scenes of T-Wire. That's better. This episode was brought to you by listeners and viewers just like you. Thank you guys so much for your support. Because of your support of the show and tuning in every week, we are now members of the YouTube Partner Program. Yay! So that gives us some extra fun stuff that we could do during the show. You could comment during the show and I could display your comment and I can talk about you. Or I could just talk about your comment. Just like Dusty Martin, she's tuning in. She said, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, Dusty. You can also do the boosted comments. I don't know how that works, but I think I've gotten enough off of that to buy 2 cups of coffee. So I appreciate that, guys. This would be the week for you guys to tune in to the YouTube version of the show. If you're an audio listener, I'm going to try to make it as functional as possible, but this is a peek behind the scenes at everything we're doing. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how I set up the show, how we find articles for the show, why we don't use some articles or sources. Actually, entire sources have been blacklisted because of the way they do things. So we're going to dive into all those things. And I'm even going to show you guys how I use artificial intelligence to generate the thumbnails for the show and to put me on there. So we're actually going to recreate the exact thumbnail that you already see for the show. So it should be a good one. I'm going to try to keep it right around that hour mark. It might go a little bit longer, just because usually as I'm talking about the news, it only takes that. So you're going to get your fill of the news. We're going to talk about all the news, everything that's happening today, but you'll probably see more news than normal because we're also going to be talking about things that I don't cover. So Elizabeth Nightingale's tuning in from Charleston, South Carolina. What's up, Elizabeth? Thanks for joining the show. All right, so I'm excited about this. First, I'm going to share my screen with you so that you could see the rundown that I see every single week. And what I do every week is I create this rundown just like this. It's a Google Doc, Google spreadsheet, Google Sheets. It's Google Sheets. And just remember, guys, anytime you Excel, there will always be someone there to spreadsheet. Oh, okay. I should probably tell you guys, the reason why we're doing the behind the scenes show today is, as you could see from the rundown, I haven't done anything. There's no show prep done, but that's because I have the COVIDs. So hopefully I'll be over it soon, but I thought I still want to share this with you. I've been trying to do a behind the scenes for a long time. So I thought, what better timing? What better timing than right now? Okay, but as you can see, I have a Google Sheet. It's got the number at the top here. It's also got the show title that I botched today. It's got the description. This is about what I read every time. It's not exactly what I read, but it's just here to clue me in and be like, this is kind of what I should be saying. So whenever you guys kind of see me off screen reading something, it is this. Let me make it bigger. So you guys, there you go. I always make the title bold so that I won't botch it. As you can see, that didn't work. What's up, Aaron? Thanks for tuning in, dude. Aaron's an Arkansan now, right? Do you claim Arkansas now? Do you tell people you're an Arkansan? Jen Sylvester, what's up from Plymouth, Massachusetts? What's up? Rick, are you saying my dad joke was a COVID joke? You're probably right. You're probably right there, actually. All right. So anyway, this is what the rundown looks like. Every week, I just basically copy. I go file, make a copy, and copy your last week's rundown. So normally I have last week's shows here and the show times and the markers and all that stuff. I've already cleared that out for us. You can see the sources page. These are the sources that we use or that we reference. But I have an even easier way to get to these sources. And sheet 7. So this is sheet 7 is a secret sheet. Sometimes I go to an article and it's a good article that's behind a paywall. And if we see one of those today, you'll see what I do. But I basically inspect the back end of the website and copy and paste the code and then remove the code. So that's how we cover some of those articles. Okay, so let's start with the industry tea. First off, let me see if I can share the actual window so you can see what happens when I push the button. Ooh, yes. This is better. All right, here's the window. What I have Amazon up. All right. So here's what it looks like on my end. You see this T-wire and the CMAs? These are tab groups that I have. So I can hit the T-wire button and look, all this is automatic load into tabs. And this is how I start. Now, normally from the contributor chat, so I have a contributor chat with several of the people that you hear chime in during the show. Rick, yes, it does work with some Inman articles. We have a contributor chat, and a lot of times they'll be throwing in articles and stuff like that. So the first thing I do is usually on Monday of the week of the show is I check the contributor chat and see, are there any articles that they've been talking about, anything that they've shared? The only thing we have so far today is Olivier talked about last night, the Canadians held the rate. So that note is something that I might go and research if I don't see it in the rundown, because most of the news I look at is American, but we try to cover the Canadian markets too. So if I don't see it and Olivier has clued me in on something, I'll run and go get that article and cover it, especially if Olivier is going to be available during the show. Oh yeah, he said he posted that this morning. So if he's around during the show, then I can also have his 2 cents, which is also, I mean, I love doing this show because I look at these news stories every week anyway, and I want to share, like, here's what's happening. I like to tell my clients, here's what's happening in the global markets. Here's what's happening in local markets. Here's what's happening in your neighborhood. And because of that, that's why we started the show. We're doing this research anyway. Maybe we should just share it with other people. But the thing that makes this show different than anything else is the input from the listeners. You guys make a lot of the show. Whenever y'all send me articles or ask me to talk about something or ask me to look something up, so I get insider tips. Some of you are like, don't use my name, but here's what's happening. And we try to find those stories. That makes this show different from any other show about real estate news. And also, I think we're the longest running real estate news podcast. Olivier, he said, I'll be back in a few. Got to take another listing. Go, dude, go. That's good. Oh, and Dusty says she likes the witty banner. That is something that makes it very different from other shows. Okay, so let's go back to the tabs. Here's the tab group. Now, what I do right now is I'm looking for articles that apply to the most number of people, right? Generally, we don't cover the demographic stuff like Black millennials half as likely to own a home as white millennials. Generally, we don't dive into that because it's not really market moving news. It is interesting, but on our show, it's not something that we like dive in unless there is fraud or something nefarious happening. So if, for instance, Black millennials are half as likely to own a home as white millennials and it's the appraiser's fault, right, Scap? Now that's the story that we're going to cover because there's something like, there's something that's in the market that shouldn't be in the market. But if it's just a stat or demographic, we don't normally cover that stuff. So what I do is I will hold command. This is going to make some of you who hate tabs crazy. And I open all the most recent news articles. So February 26th, if I had a show last week, this article probably would have already been covered in the 26th. Wasn't that before Wednesday? I think so. So I'm looking at the dates to make sure. I think I already have this one open. Florida Condo, the U.S. housing market update. And we'll check this one out just in case there's something like a nefarious market mover or something like that. All right, so this is also what's going to make some of you crazy is I read these articles really, really fast. I'm basically skimming, looking for specific words or something that would be newsworthy. And not to say that an article like this isn't newsworthy. It's just not going to hit the audience that we're covering for the reasons that we cover news. So it's talking about a racial wage and wealth gaps. That's very little to do with housing. So it's, sorry, I got to read and scroll. Homeownership rate for Black millennials and Gen Xers has grown fairly quickly over the last several years, but the racial homeownership gap persists. So it is growing. So this is one of those articles where it's interesting, but not necessarily news. So I probably wouldn't include this one in the show. All right. So this one, Florida condo prices. We've been talking about Florida condos for a long time. As you recall, the Miami condos that were kind of torn down. So what I do is I copy this link. I run over to my articles. This section would be in the headline section of the show. And I will post the link right here. Right there. And then I'll go get the title and post it right here. Now, sometimes if it's nice to have a witty hook right here, then I'll put the witty hook. Sometimes there is, and it lends itself to one, sometimes not. So this article, and one of the things I want to do while we look at these things is actually cover the articles so you guys also get the news. Hey, look at that. Howard's here. We have an international show now. Yay. Canada, Israel, America, and I think we're still ranked in Taiwan. So, all right. So prices of condos in major Florida metros are dropping year over year, and sales are declining. New condo listings are soaring as sellers try to offload their properties. That differs from the U.S. as a whole, where condo prices are rising, sales are holding steady, and new listings are increasing at a much slower rate. So condo listings are soaring, but the prices are declining because of the increase in inventory. I think one of the reasons why this is happening is the condo rule that was passed not too long ago that's going to make people who own condominiums or condominium groups put a lot more money back into the condo unit. So it's not as it's not as wonderful as a moneymaker as it used to be. So now I'm looking to see if they mention that news here. So Florida Redfin agents say climbing costs are making condo ownership unattractive. So here's that. Redfin agents report that Florida's condo sales are slow because of cost of buying a condo has shot up. Listings are skyrocketing because of cost of owning a condo has shot up. The average cost of homeowner insurance in Florida. Yeah, we know about homeowner insurance leaving the state. While condo prices are down from a year ago, they're still much higher than they were before the pandy. Condo costs are shocking. So the cost to own has gone up. Condos are sitting on the market much longer than they used to, with less interest from buyers. So we have a leveling of the condo market in Florida. There's that article. I would say, yes, we're definitely going to cover that one. It's already in there. And once I finish kind of hitting the Redfin articles that it looks like we're going to hit, so the housing market updates, they do one of these per week. So this was from last week. So I'm going to go ahead and close. Actually, I don't close the tab because that would mess up my tabs. I just come over here. Housing market update, new listings post biggest uptick in nearly 3 years. Of course, that's a good story. New listings of U.S. homes for sale rose 13% year over year during the 4 weeks ending February 25th, the biggest increase in nearly 3 years. Total inventory is also improving. Active listings are flat from a year ago, making the first time in 9 months that the total number of homes for sale hasn't declined. Well, that's good. High cost pushed pending sales down 8%. The biggest decline in 5 months, and mortgage purchase applications declined for the fourth straight week. So I know that this article is also going to be covered this stat is also going to be covered with a CNBC article that they do once a week and release on Wednesday. So because of that, I probably during the read for this article wouldn't read that section because we'll probably see a repeat of that in another article. And I like to give the purchase applications and the rate its own story every week. But house hunters are out there searching as more homes hit the market. House hunters are out there. Competition picks up every time the mortgage rate declines a bit. And then they have their stats. I don't really get into the minutia of the stats for the various areas, but I love showing these charts. You guys know that from when we're on the show. What's up? Hey, Sharon. Sorry, I have to look at a different part of the screen to see the comments today. She says on the condo news story that we just covered, plus the condo new law coming in 2025 that keeps changing the condo market. Yes, that's kind of what I was referring to. I thought that was already in place. The increased cost for condos, is that different than the condo law that you're talking about? That's a good add-in. But that's what I'm talking. That's one of the reasons why this show is so much different than other shows, is because we have people that are in the area that chime in and we listen to you and ask you questions, and you guys are part of the show. That's why I love it. Okay, so here's the median sales price. It grew 5.4% year over year. And remember, median sales price doesn't necessarily tell us that the overall prices of homes are moving up. It could be that more luxury homes are selling, so the median price goes up. So it's something that we have to watch with that number. But over time, the median sale price will continue to go up, and that tells us that home prices are increasing. The median asking price is up 5.5% year over year. Home buyer housing payments are up 7.7% year over year. And then pending sales are down 8% year over year. So this one has some great charts. And I love showing the charts during the show. The audio listeners can't really hear all the charts, obviously. So I try to define and describe those as well as I can. But sometimes these stats up at the top are just enough. Okay, so that's the article I would definitely be covering during the show, which we just covered. So I'll put that there. I have already copied I've got a tool. I don't know how to show you this. I've got a tool on my computer that allows me to copy and paste multiple things. It's called Copy Clip. It looks like a little paper clip up in the top right of my screen. And I can fill it with like 20 different things. So one of the things I'll do is you saw me earlier copy the headline of the article, and then I copied the link, but I didn't have to go back and recopy and paste. So in other words, it stays on my clipboard and I just hit the little drop down, or I can hit Command 1 or Command 2 and paste the other thing I copied. So that saves me a lot of time when I'm going through the rundown, because then I don't have to tab back and forth too much. All right, so we have this one down. U.S. housing market gained $2 trillion. All right, so see, now I'm copying, and then I copy so now they're both on my clipboard. So now I'm going to check out the article. I always do that. It's almost habit now. Whenever I visit a news article, I highlight and copy the title so I know what the title is. Even when I'm not doing the This Week in Real Estate Prep, I will copy that. And I don't know why. It's just habit now because I do this so often. But I always copy it and copy it. Even if I decide not to do this article, I might put it as a reference somewhere in the comments or notes or something like that. All right, so the total value of homes jumped 5%, the biggest gain in nearly a year, as a shortage of houses for sale propped up values. Affordable East Coast and Midwest metros saw gains of 10%, while pricey metros and pandy boomtowns saw declines. This story mimics a story that we've covered earlier, probably about 2 months ago. We covered almost this exact same story. I guess it's got new data, maybe. The cough button is working overtime today. All right, so this is according to analysis of the Redfin estimate for more than 90 million U.S. residential properties as of December 2023. This data is subject to revision. In the percentage terms, the total value of U.S. homes increased 5.3% from a year earlier in December, the biggest increase in 11 months. It was up 13.3%, $5.6 trillion from 2 years earlier. Housing demand is sluggish due to elevated mortgage rates and affordability challenges, which we all know. And usually during the show, I'll ask you guys to chime in about what's happening in your markets, because even though we're seeing sluggish sales, some markets are still taking off, and that's interesting news in itself. So anytime we see that, where someone's in a hot spot, I think it's real interesting for investors that listen to the show too. So we know there's a shortage of homes for sale. We know that home values hit low about a year ago. We know that more homes were built and are being built. So America's homeowners are sitting pretty. They're holding massive amount of housing wealth despite lackluster demand from buyers, because values skyrocketed during the pandy, and now low supply or supply shortage is preventing those home values from falling. Chin Zhao. Prospective buyers aren't as lucky. The combination of elevated mortgage rates, high home prices, and limited pool of homes for sale means homeownership is unaffordable as ever. Our bright spot for buyers is that mortgage rates should start declining before the end of 2024. Okay. I feel like we've covered all of this before, but this is Redfin data, maybe, but it echoes some data that we've already covered from maybe CoreLogic or something like that. But it's still, if I'm reading a book called $100 Million Leads. And one of the things he says in it is every time you put out a piece of content, you want to act like people aren't familiar with you or don't know who you are, which is tough to do if you're doing a behind the scenes show, because you can be like, what was the actual show? You have to go back and watch it. But saying that to say, sometimes we cover the same news article or similar data from a month ago, or maybe even a week ago, but it's a different take on it, because, it's not a guarantee that everyone watched the show last week. So the people that didn't see that article are now informed, and we can add more context with the saying, yeah, last week we talked about this week, here's this. So that's one of the things that I'll always do. If it's good enough to be in the news this week and it's good information or data, or it's something that a contributor sends to me or a listener sends to me that says, hey, have you seen this? Then obviously it caught their eye. And even if I covered something similar last week, I'll probably throw it in the show. If it's, we don't really dive into the minutia of the numbers by city very often, except we may list some of the top changes. So the total value of homes year over year as a percentage change, we could sort by that column and see the 5 best: Newark, New Jersey, New Haven, Connecticut, Camden, New Jersey, Charleston, South Carolina, Elgin, Illinois. Those are the top 5. If we hit the inverse, the bottom 5: Boise, Idaho, New York, New Orleans, and Stockton, California, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That one only had a 0.3. The others were negative. Boise, Idaho, negative 3.8. That's interesting. Okay, so that's a good article. I'll take that article. We'll throw it into the rundown. Let's see. We got, what's on my clipboard here? Here's the article. And, oops, hit the wrong button. Tabbed over. And here is the title. Okay, cool. So that's the Redfin bits. And you might notice that I also will, oh my gosh, they want me to turn ads on. You might notice that I also will mix up the order some during the show. Sometimes I'll go Redfin, but oftentimes I'll go I'll go to a different article or back and forth. So Fox Business does not have very much good housing information at all, but I always check it. This says a new real estate opportunity brewing as some Americans opt to rent. That's kind of interesting. I know it's going to be an article. They cover a Redfin report about how the election could impact the market. That's speculative, not really great news. Celebrity, we don't normally talk about, unless it's like a big time celebrity, we will talk about one of their predictions, because we love, Susie Orman and Grant Cardone. House of Pancakes. Let's say there's no news for the week. Like it's just super dry and there's nothing out there. I might cover this Eggo waffle pancake shaped house, but not really. It's not really news. New real estate opportunity is the most interesting thing on the page. We look down here. This is the CEO of a company, Post Brothers. They are probably, oh no, how do I stop it? Stop. There. So if the CEO of a company is saying something, it's usually because the CEO of the company will benefit if it goes that direction. Yeah, it's not really any news. This is all kind of speculation stuff through here. Talking about infill. Yeah, so I probably wouldn't cover anything from Fox News this week. And that's kind of normal. Usually there's nothing on Fox Business about housing, but there's a little trick. You can go to this little search bar type housing. And a lot of times they have a good article that's not necessarily included in their real estate dropdown about housing. And I don't know why they missed that. Obviously, right now it's searching and not finding anything. But I don't know why whoever's doing their website misses that categorization sometimes, but they are. And right now it's not looking up anything. So we'll just go to the next source. The next source is CNBC. And they always want me to do the ad blocker thing as well. I have 2 ad blockers going, so I have to do the double. All right, refresh. Now it's cnbc.com/real estate. They've really gone down as far as their news coverage goes. I'm really only pulling 1 to maybe 2 articles from them a week. I used to pull 3 or 4 from them every week. This is the one I'll pull. This is that weekly mortgage demand surging 11%. I think I told you earlier that that's one that I'll give it wrong way there. So the average contract interest rate, 30-year fixed mortgage, conforming loan balance decreased to 7.02% from 7.04. Mortgage applications to purchase increased 11%. That's the gist of the whole story. Always look at applications to purchase and overall applications and applications to refi, and usually distinguish between those. If there's anything of note, I'll cover that too. Of note, purchase volume, particularly for FHA loans, was up strongly. Now that's interesting because it's kind of lends itself to more first-time home buyers. So it's showing how sensitive the first-time home buyer market segment is to relatively small changes in the direction of rates. Mike Frantantoni, Senior Vice President and Chief Economist in the Mortgage Bankers Association. Other sources of housing data are showing increases in new listings, which is real positive for the spring buying season, given the lack of inventory for sale. Yeah, that kind of echoes everything I've been seeing as well. So there's nothing astounding about this article. The increase of 11% is pretty high. Applications to refinance a home increased 8%. They were 2% lower than the same week a year ago. Let's see. Demand was still 8% lower than the same week 1 year ago for purchase applications. All right, so that one's added to the rundown right there. Now, normally, if I am if I'm sorting this beforehand, like today we're not sorting, but normally I would put this probably towards the top. I would put the condo story a little bit down in the middle here. But I usually cover the applications to purchase towards the top. Thanks for listening, Dusty. Was your buyer listening to the show today? Okay. So we're finished with that article. We're finished with that source. We may be finished with the whole source. Let's take another look just to make sure. Trump's best option to get 540 million clean private lenders. I don't really. Now, the last week we covered a Trump story, and we don't really do a lot of political stories, but we covered the Trump story because it really didn't matter what side. The big deal was how it may impact developers and anyone that is telling the bank, hey, my home's for $500,000. I want to get a home loan to put a pool in the backyard. And this lawsuit opens up, well, you lied about the value, Mr. Homeowner. Your home is not worth that much. And so because you lied about the value, we could sue you. And so that's significant to the real estate market as a whole and the real estate world and just how real estate functions if that lawsuit does not get overturned, specifically in New York. But this one about how Trump raises money to pay stuff, that's not really news for us. The other news stories were all videos, and their write-ups on their videos are terrible. I mean, it's not good, and it's very difficult to pull something out of those articles. So we will just go to the next source. And the next source being NAHB, the National Association of Home Builders. They have a news and economics industry news. They also have a press room. So whenever we talk about builder sentiment, we get it straight from the source. So we go to the NAHB. So March 6th, NAHB announces the Best in America Living Award winners. Not really news for us. That kind of thing, though, if you had like somebody from your area that won that, that would be good for maybe your YouTube channel. But for us as a news broadcast, it's not really something that we're going to cover. On March 5th, here's the rundown. Oops, hang on.
Unknown caller.
Unknown. What is happening? That is terrible. My bad. Sometimes even when my phone is on do not disturb, we get disturbed. And I'm not sure how that happens. I'm wondering if those spam calls are hitting a button that says like notify anyway somehow. I don't know. All right. Anyway, home price gains continued in December. Single family production shows signs of stirring across the nation. Now that's a good article because we've been talking about how builders need to build. Career change, no. Local code officials, nah. Here's a housing forecast. We'll see if it's new. Published February 27th. I think we've already covered this one. As interest rates modulate, single family starts forecasting an increase in 4.7% this year. So this is one where having the previous rundown on the old rundown is helpful because I will be able to go and say, yeah, we've covered that or we haven't covered that. So we may not have covered that. Oh, that's the same. That's a different article. Huh. All right, led by larger urban metros, single-family growth rates are showing signs of a turnaround as moderating mortgage rates and the lack of existing inventory are contributing to the gradual upward trend. I like that article too. All right, so this would be two good articles for us to cover. The single-family production increase, and I'll read through them in just a second with you. And the single-family starts will rise, but supply challenges persist. So I'd probably cover them in that order as well. So we'll talk about the issues with supply. We'll talk about the forecast. NAHB is forecasting 2 or 3 Fed rate cuts, 25 basis points during the latter half of 2024, which would put mortgage rates on uneven downward path with economic data stronger than expected at the start of the year. Mortgage rates increased from about 6.6 to 6.9% by the end of February. By the end of this year, NAHB projects mortgage rates will be below 6.5%, and by the end of 2025, we expect rates to be in the 5% range, said Robert Dietz. This is good news for builders and housing demand and housing affordability. Let's see. I'm seeing, so bear with me while I skim. On the multifamily front, NAHB is expecting multifamily starts to fall 19.7%. So that's also big news. And we've talked about multifamily before and what's happening in multifamily, how it appears to be not necessarily overbuilt, but maybe appropriately built. And so all the new starts are backing up a little bit. Whenever you see that the new starts are backing up, I think that's an opportunity for a lot of real estate agents that are dealing in multifamily properties, because that means that the opportunity is buying an existing multifamily unit, remodeling it, and increasing the rents that way versus building a new unit as cost increased and as the vacancy rate increases. More builders are bullish. We've talked about the lock-in effect before, where people are sitting in their house and they don't want to move. 80% of builders anticipate starting more homes this year, and more than half, 51%, expect starts will be up more than 10% compared with 2023. Cool. Okay, so that's a good article. I would add that. And the second article, National Association of Home Building Geography Index for the fourth quarter of 2023. Single family construction showed a gradual growth across much of the nation. So this is talking about what has happened. The other one was talking about what will happen. Meanwhile, new multifamily building in large metro suburban counties posted a negative growth rate of 20%. So they're expecting that to continue, I guess, from the other report. Breaking down the nation's 7 metro county areas, the fourth quarter. All right, we're going to zoom past that. So this article is not as good. So what I would probably do during the show is reference this article with the other article. So when I do that, I will come in here. When I'm doing the collection, normally I don't go through all of the articles like we're doing today. I read the articles, I collect them, and then I go back through and read them at another time. Today we're reading them at the same time, so you're actually getting the news at the same time. But sometimes I'll just put a parentheses, and this tells me that I'm covering 2 articles at once. And then I will take the other link and plop the link there. So I have an alternate source. So this tells me that I need to talk about this, and then I need to reference something in the other one. And sometimes I'll add in more notes on that. If I need a story description or anything like that, I'll add some notes in here. Sometimes the hook will tell me what I need to, if I want to add a hook in there for it. All right, so that was our NAHB source. Let's go to Realtor Magazine. So now we're getting into what I like to call the industry tea. And I used to cover the industry tea at the end of our show because there wasn't much, usually a story or two. You know, Gary Keller replaces himself as CEO and names someone else or something like that. Well, lately, there's been a lot of industry tea, in part because of all the lawsuits and everything that's happening, in part because of everything that's going on at NAR Corporate, the lawsuits and the harassment and the new president after new president after new president. So industry tea has actually become an integral part of the show, which it was never really intended to be part of the show, but there's so much happening that we felt like we needed to cover it. So I moved it to the front of the show so that we could kind of get past those news stories that all the realtors especially were like, oh, is he going to talk about this? What are we going to say? And then we could also dive into the news towards the end because there's most of the listeners, I think they just want the news. Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Drop it in the comments if I'm wrong. You want the tea? Just, do the emoji. All right. So let's look at the real estate news. Now, the Realtor Magazine isn't going to give me much tea, obviously. They're just going to give me announcements. They used to have a really good real estate news category. And in the real estate news category, it was full of Lawrence Yune's take on this thing that's happening in the economy and how it impacts real estate agents as a whole and how NAR is doing this and that. And lately it's been not good. I mean, lately it's been just kind of like puff pieces. Even when I go to the news and commentary, the lead article that they have that they're currently featuring at the top of the news and commentary section is the MLS cyber attack, a story from August 25th, 2023. Then they literally say this phrase, we cannot let this crisis go to waste. What are they talking about? Who originated that quote? Machiavelli? That's what the Google says. Anyway, they used to have here's what you can expect for this quarter, and here's what's happening, and it's just gone downhill. Now you have our NAR's interim CEO battling the Wall Street Journal with a little letter that we talked about last week. We have the new president talking about RY. This is not news. None of this is news. We have the old president article still talking about owning it. I mean, they need help. So I haven't been able to get all that to say. I haven't been able to get the news that I'm looking for from NAR in a very long time. It's been like this for a very long time. I still have them as a source. So where do we go for industry news? Broke Agent Media. Elizabeth said, the banter and interaction is the most fun part of the show. Some tea is needed. I like the show format you've created. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. Some tea. All right, so becoming a neighborhood. So when I go to Broke Agent Media has some good news out there. They have news articles and things like that. I know because I've written some for them. But they also have a lot of marketing help and here's how to geographic farm and here's the post you need to make on Instagram and blah, blah, blah. Those are not what I cover during the show. during the show, if you get a marketing tip from me, it's usually related to something that's going on in the market. And it's usually maybe a practical tip or maybe something you should talk about or an avenue for you to make money or make money in your business with what is happening in the news. Broke Agent Media is more of a let's help you be a better creator. Okay. There you go. Bam. My favorite people. Scap. Thanks, buddy. He loves debating them. Okay, all right, so let's look at let's look at their rundown. Now we've already covered this, who we are. They're way late on that. We covered this a long time ago. This is another one about leads. Not really interested in that. Looking through, not a ton of news. Here's some news. 100 plus housing experts see increased home price growth and 6% mortgage rates in 2024. That's interesting because it does go into the forecasting. So that would be a good article to follow the NAHB forecasting. So I would put that right there, which is perfect. That's where we are. So this is less industry tea, and this is more like actual news. So I like that. Let's see. Home price growth expectations for 2024 through 2026 are up with last week's release of the Q1 2024 Fannie Mae Home Price Expectation Survey. Oh, and sometimes we'll go straight to this source too, and we will list this source as well in the rundown for people to reference if they would like to. All right, so now we'll go back. Wait, where are we? We're right here. Part of that has to do with the 6% median mortgage rates expected by the expert panel at the end of the year. Produced in partnership with Pulsenomics, LLC, the Fannie Mae Home Price Expectation Survey results are based on responses from 14 experts in the housing and mortgage industry and academia. All right. So during the show, I probably wouldn't read all that, but I'm reading it all for now for me. This is an interesting graphic. So annual home price growth expectations, 3.8% in 2024, 3.4% in 2025, 3.9% in 2026. A little dip is interesting. Panel projections on home prices are up from last quarter's forecast. Oh, they have a most pessimistic. Panel-wide, most optimistic. So the U.S. home price expectations most optimistically by 2029, it looks like, would be up, or the end of 2028, but the graph keeps going, so I'm not sure what they did there. But 33.8% from now until 2028. 8.1% was the most pessimistic number. 20.8% was average. Then you see the average home price growth. This also has a lot of good graphs from the Fannie Mae report. So there's risk assessment. Normally I don't go into some of what agents say. So sometimes on Broke Agent Media, they'll say, here's what agents have to say about this. But I do like hearing what some of the people that are putting on the panels or people that have done the studies, I will read through those. It's like Byron. I love Byron, but I don't really cover what he says. Cool. All right, so that's a good article too. Let's look for some tea though, because that's a good article, but it's not really tea. Did I put the title in there? No, I haven't done the title yet. Nope, wrong button. There you go. Oh, and I also try not to caps lock it, but Bam loves caps lock. Okay, so that's a good article. We've already got Fannie Mae news there. Higher than expected moving expenses. That's interesting. I'd probably cover that if we didn't have enough news articles. Biggest reasons for phone anxiety through a showcase. So there's not really any tea on this one. I could go to the lawsuit watch that Broke Agent Media has and go down to the bottom and see if there's one that we haven't covered yet, which I don't think there is for the first week in a long time. So there's no real industry tea for Broke Agent Media this week, which is that's a rarity. All right, but Inman, they usually have something. They also have lots of ads of everything they're doing. They want me to pay like $2,500 for Inman Select, and I'm just not going to. Okay, so the industry tea is obviously what happened to EXP. There's some more information that came out, and now Glenn Sanford has been drugged into this, saying that he is someone that covered it up. So we would cover this, obviously, because it's a big story, and we've covered a lot of this in the past as well. So this will be an update. Usually the updates on this kind of stuff are not as long as the initial coverage, because I expect that some people have some knowledge of what's happening. So we'll just kind of update people and say, this is what's happening. After largely beating back an attempt to get their claims tossed out of court, 4 female real estate agents have bolstered their complaint, accusing eXp Realty and its founder, Glenn Sanford, of looking the other way, as 2 male eXp agents allegedly lured women into the industry and company events with a promise to a career advancement, only to drug and sexually assault them. The amended complaint paints a picture of recruiting tactics that lean heavily on displays of success, allegedly at the instruction of EXPs and Sanford. According to the complaint, such a display included top male recruiters bolstering their status and drugging women, but making it appear the women more attracted to them. What drug does that? Weird. In a statement, EXP denied the allegations, emphasizing agents are independent contractors. I know they have to do that legally, but that's the same thing that Gary Keller did during the lawsuit, and that does not endear you to the jury. And I know legally they have to say, like, well, they're independent contractors, but in a jury trial, if this ever gets, I don't know where it's going, but if it gets there, that does not, like, this is what happened. Well, they're independent contractors. Okay. That's not a winning stance, in my opinion. Maybe legally, but that doesn't help you with the jury. February 28th. All right. So now this is where I don't really go into the details. Also don't prefer to name people. So I'm not going to get into like the details of exactly what happened, because it just, people can read it if they want to know more of that stuff. What I look for is how the complaint is different or similar. This says the complaint is similar to the plaintiff's first amended complaint that alleges the defendants violated federal sex trafficking law by turning a blind eye or participating in the assault against female agents. Both complaints allege defendant EXP attempted to cover up the criminal conduct. I think that is more up here when it says like allegedly at the instruction of EXP and Sanford. And then the next phrase says displays included drugging women. I have a hard time believing Glenn was like, oh yeah, totally drug her. Like, that's not, I just can't see if that's the case, it's absolutely insane. But I just don't see that that's even though that's how this article is written, that's hard to fathom. But the cover up is more fathomable. The saying, well, hey, let's take care of this on the inside and sweep it under the rug. That's way more fathomable. EXP has zero tolerance for abuse, harassment, and misconduct of any kind, including by the independent real estate agents who use their services. The claims in this case stem from alleged assaults by independent real estate agents who were never EXP employees, which we handled with speed, seriousness, and deep respect as soon as the accusers brought it to our attention, in line with our values. If that's true, I mean, they did kind of all they could, I would guess. The question is, did they foster that type of environment? So, all right. Now this is by contrast. That's why I'm saying I look for things that are different or similar to its predecessor. The second amended complaint adds details about EXP's revenue share program to the degree which Sanford and EXP exerted control. Well, I don't know that has much to do with, maybe it does. Maybe that's kind of the carrot that they were hanging out there. So there's way more. I'm not going to, the biggest news is that Sanford has been brought in on it. So that's, then I look for any other industry tea. I'll put this in there, obviously. Oh, and I always leave a space at the top and bottom because I delete rows as I don't need them. It just makes it easier to handle the formatting because I have like bold lines and stuff. And if any of you have used Sheets, if you move something that has a bold line, that line moves. That's annoying. So always leave a buffer. I'm OCD. Is that OCD? Maybe OCD. Okay. Berkshire Hathaway Energy added to the growing Gibson commission lawsuit. All right, so that's a change that we would talk about. We probably wouldn't spend very much time on it, but we would talk about it. So how to leverage CEO, this is where they get into how real estate agents should improve their business, and I don't really cover that either. Let's see, still got quite a few of you watching live, so that's good. I'm glad hopefully y'all are enjoying this. I've had several of you DM and say, how do you decide what to do? This is it. This is exactly how I create the show. Now, normally I do this in 2 or 3 sit downs. I'm just doing it in one today because I've been a little under the weather. I'm not really seeing much else on this. Sometimes Inman will have a story about a celebrity real estate agent that has been frauding regular people. We cover that because that's interesting, and I love to see people kind of get their due. I want to be sure that people know not to use those folks. Pickleball and neutral walls, the top 5 home design trends. This is the type of stuff I cover if there's not much going on. I'll throw that in there. There's way too many news articles this week, as you can see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 main news articles. It would take me the whole show to read those, plus 2 or 3 different industry tea. And we have this Berkshire Hathaway story too. Now, the Berkshire Hathaway story hit different, and I would probably talk about this from the same angle that the regular media are talking about it, just because they won the clickbait war. And what they said was, they didn't say Berkshire Hathaway, the company, or anything like that. They said Warren Buffett. So they named him. They didn't talk about his company or anything. They were like, Warren Buffett drug into the commission lawsuit. Warren Buffett defrauds millions of Americans. And so that's probably the hook that I would use on that one. And I would talk about it in the same way that some of the other outlets are talking about. But then we would put it in the terms that we normally see as real estate agents. Once we get into the meat of the article, we would talk about the brokerage. Berkshire Hathaway Energy has engaged in price fixing by using our nation's MLS system as a vehicle to fix, increase, raise, and stabilize the number of commissions that a homeowner has to pay to sell their home. The number of commissions. Interesting. All right, and it's all kind of the same stuff that we talked about it before. So I would read through this in detail and see if there's anything different. I'm skimming it right now. I'm not seeing anything huge or different other than Warren Buffett being named and playing a role. The complaint alleges that BHE considers itself the joint employer of home services employees, cites home services workers and its own employees in public filings. This is a parent company getting in trouble. Connections between BHE and NAR. Well, that could be interesting. Requires its franchisees to comply with NAR rules and regulations. This is the same stuff that the others did too. When it said connections, I was like, wait a minute, is there somebody on the board? I don't see anything like that. Long Foster. Sorry, this is a boring part. All right, the complaint points to NAR's advisory group. Oh, so they do name the advisory group. I was wondering when that would be. NAR's executive committee and board of directors. RES 2019 cohort included leaders from firms that are defendants, such as, and then it's got them all listed there. Okay. Interesting. So that's the Berkshire Hathaway update, as he's been drug into. And I would probably lead with that because I don't like to lead with these kind of stories right here. So I'd probably lead with that as the first story of the show. And I would use the Warren Buffett sued, and I'd put that on the thumbnail. Today, we're not going to do that thumbnail. Today, we're doing a behind-the-scenes thumbnail. I'm going to show you how to recreate the thumbnail that I created for today. All right, and that's it. That's the articles that we have for the show. So that is the TOR tab. And now I go back to this, and this is when I order it. I don't have very much industry tea, so I would probably look for some, to be honest. I know that I would also have to add my Canadian story from my contributors group, but he hasn't sent me a link yet, and he's not here. But normally I would ask him for a link to the story, or I would go find a story and plop it in here about the rates holding firm. They're not looking to drop rates anytime soon, they said. And that relates to a story that we covered 2 weeks ago, where we talked about how they're kind of decoupling from what America is doing. So this is it. This is the rundown. I would delete some rows, make it a little easier to read. And then we would do the show. When I do the show, this is the part that I start and read. And then we go right from there into the rest of the show. You can see where I have a frozen window there. So as I go down, I can see what's next. And then after the show, my lovely assistant goes through and watches the show and puts timestamps in when I talk about the different articles. Then she adds those timestamps along with the news articles. Any hooks that I have there, she'll usually replace the headline with whatever hook I wanted. And then she puts the news source. So we always, every week, put all of the sources down in the description. So if somebody's like, where is that article? It's in the description. But we also have a timestamp of everything during the show. And maybe I can show you. Well, I mean, I'm assuming you guys know what that looks like. You're totally unfamiliar with what we're doing over here. Just in case, I'll show you what that looks like in the. Okay. My channel, your channel. Okay. This is, whoa. All right. So this is last week's show. Or actually, it was 2 weeks ago because I was at Elite Retreat last week. Oh, and now we have chat replay, which is cool because we have enough subscribers. So this live chat replay, all the chats that were happening during the show will be replayed in time in the live chat replay. So that's cool. Okay, so here is what the show looks like in the end. There's Elizabeth Nightingale's comment. I'm going to thumb you up. I don't know why I haven't. Oh, see, I don't like the spam guys. If I hit more, here's what the final product looks like. We have the rundown, which I just showed you guys that she's just using most of the titles on this one, but they can click and go to that part of the show. And then here's our sourced articles. So oh wait, I'm not showing it. My bad. You guys got to tell me. All right, here it is. So here's the description. Here's the rundown. And this is added after the show. And then here's at the bottom of that, here's the sourced articles. So not bad. Only 98 views on the show 2 weeks ago. That's a little low. Most of our views are listeners on the pod. So I don't know if you've enjoyed the show or not, podcast listeners, but you are mostly who listens to the show every week. But in total, we get a couple of thousand views and listens every week. So I really appreciate that. All right. So y'all ready to make a real fast, you're ready to make a real fast thumbnail? This is like truly behind the scenes. All right. So what I do is I go to Midjourney. If you don't know how to use a Midjourney, this is not a Midjourney tutorial. Okay. But what I do is I go to Midjourney and I ask Midjourney to create something. Sometimes it's the Fed. Sometimes it is a fiery background of a city in disarray, or sometimes it's a beautiful home floating in the sky. If I want to talk about sky high home prices, so I try to think of something kind of punny that goes along with the show title. Today, I asked for a curtain with a scene behind it and a stack of TVs, 2 different images that we're going to combine. Okay, let me see. I want to kind of hide the finished product. Now, if you click the thumbnail, you know what it looks like, but I'm going to hide the finished product from you. Okay, do you see this? Do you see this? Now you do. All right. So we've got, this picture is from Midjourney. I mean, it's curtains. It's red curtains on the left and right side. And it is a scene in the middle, which is what I asked for. Some kind of background scene in the middle. I asked for a stack of televisions. Move that part to the front so you can see what that looks like. So I asked for a stack of televisions showing the news. Now, it didn't really show the news very well. That's okay. This will work for the purposes of what we're using. And then I took a picture of myself with my iPhone. Now, on this picture, it's important that you could see my arms all the way down. That was important because of my placement on the thumbnail itself. Okay, so I wanted to be able to see my arms all the way down. I just don't want it to be cut off like that, because then when I place it on the background, it looks terrible. So I have a project file in Canva. That's what we're using. That has a background inset. All I'm going to do first is I'm going to take our TVs. I'm going to drag them over to the background. Bam. There. Our TVs are in the background. Now I need to size my curtains so that it goes from edge to edge. You're going to be amazed at how easy this is. Now I'm going to move this down a little bit so it kind of covers. There you go. Now I need to cut out this middle. So they have this really cool tool, Edit Photo, Background Removal, and it should remove the scene in the back. Bam, it removed the scene in the back, just like that. Now I don't really love how these curtains are kind of floating in the air. So I would probably do some editing here by just making the curtains a little longer and then reframing them a bit. There. So we see curtains, we see television news stories, and now we have this weird square picture of me in the front. I'm just going to edit that photo, remove that background as well. Sometimes it takes a second. Bam. Now I'm going to make myself bigger. About like that. I usually cut off my head so my eyes are bigger. And what's it doing this for? It's got something clear over me. Right, there you go. All right. So that's me. Now, I also, as you can see from this one, I'm a little smoother. So this is the reveal. Bam. We just created this in like, what'd that take? 2 minutes? 3 minutes? I don't really like to spend a ton of time on the thumbnails, but I do edit this. And I'm going to Facetune it. All right, face retouch. Goodness. We're going to get smooth skin. So I go overly smooth on purpose because that's what YouTube audience clicks on for some reason. All right, so we smooth the face a little bit. There's another Facetune that I don't see anymore. I probably have to go back. I prefer the old editor. Yeah, I got to go back. Take me to the old editor, guys. There's a better Facetune on there too. So the old Facetune whitens the eyes, which are important. You want to get white eyes on all of your thumbnails. Oops, I don't know why it's doing this. So it's giving me some trouble right now for some reason, which usually I have to restart Canva. We'll see if all right, background removal. This is good TV. Where's my... All right, I'm just waiting. It's like spinning. I'm just waiting. All right, there. All right, background's removed. Now we're going to do the Facetune to make my face look smooth and kind of almost unrealistic. But don't let that bug you. That's just a YouTube thing. I don't know why people like it, but they click on it more if you have like an unrealistic, smooth, proportioned face. So I go from here to 75% or 80% and then apply and done. So now my eyes are wider, the teeth are wider, it's a little bit smoother, my shirt's smoother, and people love to click on that. Oh, and for whatever reason, because we changed editors. Hang on. my background, whenever you change editors from the new editor to the old editor, you lose some of your edits on that page. All right, so now we have, what happened? Maybe. Oh, that's what happened. Well, you get the idea. For whatever reason, it took out my TVs. Never can be. But this is what it looks like at the end. So now you see it. I think when I move the background, so one of the things that you have to worry about with Canva is if you have these like background grids, anytime you move anything over the background, it just takes it over. So I'm quite sure that's what happened. So bam, there's the TVs. Yeah, that's what happened. But that's it. That's how we make the show. That's how I make the show. So then whatever our thumbnails and stuff are, I put that out when I create the show using Restream. Right now I'm using Restream. I'm thinking about going to StreamYard though, because in StreamYard, I could do a rundown on the side of the screen, which I would really love to do so that you guys would know, like, here's what I'm covering next. Here's what we're talking about. Yes, this is the finished product now. Send backward. Bam. All right, there we go. Now you see what the finished product looks like. Something like that. But I'm thinking about using StreamYard because on this side of the screen, I'll be able to show a panel like the pardon the interruption. Which articles are coming up next and kind of happening during the show. If you want something like that, let me know. There's a little bit of cost associated with all this stuff, which I'm fine with, but I want to know if it's actually, I don't want to pay for something and put it in place if it's stupid. But I think that would be helpful because then you would see like, oh, this article is coming up next. And you got to see the rundown as it happens. So, but that's the show for this week. So thank you guys for staying tuned. I know that was a lot. This was a big request from a lot of folks. So I hope you watch it. And I hope you like the detail that goes into the show every week. It takes me a couple of hours every week to do the rundown, to get it all ready, and then to produce the show. So good. Elizabeth liked it. If Elizabeth likes it, if one person likes it, we're good there. So thanks, Elizabeth. Hopefully the COVIDs will go away soon. All right, guys. Next week is March 13th. So I'll see you there. What's up, Rick? Thank you, man. Thanks for tuning in today. I will see y'all next week. Bye, everybody.